You were listening to From Sobriety to Recovery with Jesse Mogul. Let's get to the show. Welcome back to From Sobriety to Recovery. I am your host, Jesse Mogul. I am in addiction recovery, and welcome to the very first episode of the From Sobriety to Recovery podcast right there that is being done on YouTube with a lot of cajoling and a lot of push by my Wise Mind Empowerment and Recovery tribe. I have decided to move the podcast jointly. It'll still be a podcast to those of you who are auditory listeners, but now we're bringing in a visual component, and I'm really excited for this. I've spent a lot of time figuring out all these lights and the cameras and the microphones and getting all of this ready. So for those of you who are longtime listeners of said auditory content, welcome to seeing me do this live. And while I'm extremely excited to be recording this pilot, this is like the third time that I've done this because my lighting and things of that nature weren't correct. So we're going to just click, hit play, and hope that for the best on this one. So for those of you who are new to the From Sobriety to Recovery world, why am I doing this? Back on January 12th of 2017, I awakened in a very cold, dark place. I can feel a tightness in my chest, a needle that feels like it's just swirling around inside my heart. The stench of my own disgustingness and death all around me as I lay in my ice cold bathtub has the shower just sprays these ice cold needles across my face. In that moment, I did think that I was having a heart attack, and I definitely thought that this could be the end of my story. Knowing how my stepfather passed away by dying in the bathroom, and knowing how my mother, who passed away dying in her sleep, I know how much that affected me and really broke me for many years. I realized that I did not want this moment in my life to be how my story ended. With a lot of determination and a lot of pain, I got myself out of that shower, got myself looking into the bathroom mirror, and I saw a monster, a ghost, a broken man looking back at me. While I had the angel on one side saying, "There's another way. Let's talk about a different way of living your life," the devil on the other shoulder was just laughing, knowing that this was one of the many times I had told myself that maybe there's a different way, and I still kept coming back to him. With what now feels like a tremendous amount of calling, I walked out of that bathroom into my bedroom. It looked like someone had thrown a fraternity party in there, but I was the only one. Empty bottles and pizza boxes and chicken bones, and it was a travesty to say the least. And with the fortitude that I now just believe seriously was something internally that said make a change or die, I called up Kaiser Permanente, and after 22 years of hardcore drinking and the ebbs and flows of drug use, I made the call and asked for help and checked myself into their outpatient care about 3 or 4 days later. And my very first day of sobriety was January 13th of 2017. And the next few weeks were tough. I recall the hot sweats and the cold sweats and the not being able to eat and the not being able to take in fluids and the constant regurgitation of anything that did try to enter into my system. But through the support of Kaiser and the therapists there and the people I met in those meetings, I pushed through that first month, 2, 3. And as I began to embrace what a life without alcohol in it and drugs would be, I started to realize that there was a lot going on inside my mind that I didn't fully understand, but there was a part of me that had to. I had to get in here and figure out why was I constantly looping back to the same behaviors, even though time and time again, it just punished me. It left me in pain with broken relationships, an empty bank account, or even worse, with relationships that fueled that kind of behavior, with a bank account that just never seemed to be able to get drained. And over the course of the next few months, I was introduced to neuro-linguistic programming. I was introduced to other psychological theories, but neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, something about the way that the five senses take in information and put it into your brain, and it goes through delete, distort, and generalizations, and it goes through all these filters like personality traits and memories and experiences and attitudes and beliefs and opinions and habits and standards. It all seemed to connect with the way that I wanted to develop my mindset. And as I began to get more and more involved in neuro linguistic programming, I was introduced to the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. And when I combined growth mindset and the ideology or that Carol Dweck talked about in that book, along with neuro linguistic programming, I seem to have found a key to unlocking an understanding of my mind that I so desperately wanted. Through the many teachings of my mentor, I learned the practitioner level of neurolinguistic programming into the master practitioner level, eventually becoming a trainer and then a master trainer. And for any of you who've done any kind of research on this, while I understand that it is not necessarily a regulated industry, for those of us who really care about helping people and understanding the mind, it certainly is a gateway into a whole different world of how we create our realities. Over the course of the years, I have produced 300 episodes of this. I've got, I think, 150 episodes of that before I stopped it, which is ironic that I stopped doing that podcast right when I started getting my master's degree in psychology through the Grand Canyon University with a triple emphasis in trauma therapy, addiction recovery therapy, and family marriage therapy. And so one of the precursors to me even launching this 5 years ago, 300 episodes ago, was that I wanted to make sure that I was bringing actionable information. I was able to meet people where they're at. I was able to guide those who so desperately were seeking answers in a way that was congruent with my values, that I wanted to be honest and forthright. I didn't want to spread misinformation. And I believe that over the course of 300 episodes, I've proven to my listeners that I absolutely abide by these values, while understanding that the human existence is infinite. I can't possibly know everything, and I have certainly changed my opinions and belief systems around some of the things I said 300 episodes ago, now that we're here and now, right? The idea is that we're forever evolving and we're changing. And are we taking control of our change? Or are we allowing the change to guide us? Because for so many years in addiction, we blindly allowed this ridiculous version of ourselves to take the steering wheel of our lives and just continuously, Toots is the driving cat, it over cliffs. And time again, we found ourselves scraping across a rock bottom that we swore we would never touch again, but yet seemingly found it like we were magnetized towards that existence. When you choose to step into sobriety, it is just the beginning. It is not the end of anything other than maybe your active using. Other than that, it's the beginning of figuring out a new way of adulting. It's a beginning of figuring out a new way of communicating with yourself and others, of loving yourself and others, of embracing life and understanding that not everything is instant gratification and we don't have all of the things we want all of the time. And in fact, it is through hard work and determination that the things we want the most actually mean the most to us upon completion. And that's a key word, completion. See, it can be a journey whenever it's just by ourselves, but it becomes an adventure when we do it with other people. And part of the sobriety and recovery community is that desire to be there for one another, to offer up assistance when it's there, understanding that it's all about your own resiliency, your own ability to sustain and maintain your sobriety and recovery, not expecting other people to show up for you every single time you want them there, because they also have their own lives. And for those of us who checked ourselves into either inpatient or outpatient treatment, we realized pretty quickly that we're the ones who felt that we needed to make a massive change in our lives. And whether everybody else in our lives feels that they need to make any changes or not is really up to their own subjective perspective. And ultimately, it comes down to maintaining what we desire from our lives and then communicating with others about our needs and understanding that they are going to want some time and space to embrace this new version of us. And they may have seen us try 20, 30, 40, 50 times before. And why would they think that this time's any different? Because you are going to actively pursue a shifting of your mindset. We all have that within inside of us. And I understand that there are varying levels of trauma. There are varying levels of alcohol and drug abuse. And I, in a million years, will never utter the sentence, if I can do it, you can do it. Because it minimizes whatever you've gone through. It minimizes your trauma. It minimizes your suffering. Because it basically says, well, whatever happened to me couldn't be nearly as whatever happened to me was obviously worse than you. And if I can do it, then you can do it. And whether that's what we mean when we say that or not, it certainly is how the brain can interpret it. And I have no idea in all of the infinite ways that a persons can live their life that whatever I went through was nearly as bad or better or whatever a judgment statement might try to place upon that. I have no control or knowledge of what you've gone through to get to where you're at. But what I certainly can say is that because I've done it, it's shown other people that it's possible. And you can then seek to model my behavior or somebody else's behavior in your own life or in one of your meetings or your sponsor or your mentor, or however that looks for you, realizing that, yes, they did it. And that shows that it's possible. And it certainly will allow you opportunities to learn from them and then mimic that behavior and model that behavior. But ultimately, you're the only one inside here every single moment of your life. You're the person who's been inside here since you were in utero. There is no one else who thinks they know you as well as you think you know you. And part of the sobriety and recovery journey is reestablishing a relationship that may have been very toxic between yourself and yourself for quite some time. And so as we dive into all of the topics that I'm going to cover on this show, and again, there's 300 of them in the archives, and there's this desire inside of me to say something that's so profound, that means so much, that everybody tunes back in and they listen and they watch and they care about themselves as much as I care about myself, as much as I care about my sobriety and recovery. I genuinely care about your existence because I do feel that we are all part of this combined energy on this planet. And anybody who's suffering is they should not be left behind. But I also cannot be the one who picks up all the tools and does it for you. There's a part of you that has to want this for yourself. And having lived a life where you might think you're worthless and a piece of crap and you don't deserve love or success or wealth or financial stability or even a warm meal every single night, there's going to be a lot going on in here that you're going to want to understand so that you can release those anchors, so that you can release that pain and suffering. You can learn from it, realizing that we can't erase it. Once an experience has happened inside of us, once we have experienced something in our lives, it doesn't just get deleted. Time doesn't necessarily heal all wounds because it's still inside of us, but it can certainly alleviate some of the intensity of that pain, of that suffering that we have felt for so long. But the healing has to be conscious. It has to be something that you deliberately set upon yourself to remedy, to heal, to be able to abate inside of you whenever it wants to charge you up and make you angry and furious and yell and scream at other people or yourself. When you wake up in the morning, do you say, I'm a worthless piece of crap, or today is a day full of possibilities? And so I want to say the most profound things. I want the whole world to feel positive about themselves. And let me just throw a caveat in here right now. I do not always feel positive about myself. Hell, I'm pretty sure I've yelled at myself about these lights because last night when I went to flip on the video to check out all the things I had recorded yesterday and found that it was all pixelated, that none of it was usable, I was devastated because I had said some pretty cool stuff. And one day that'll hit the airways. I'll show it out to you, but not these first videos. I want you to at least see that I understand the concept of lighting and microphones, and I can hold a thought and be able to articulate it back to you. And I want this to mean something to you. I want you to coming back. I don't really care if you subscribe. I don't care if you hit the little bell and do the notification thing. I don't at all. Keep me in the back of your mind, and every once in a while when you need to pick me up, flip me on and see what I have to say. Listen in the background while you're vacuuming the house or while you're driving to work or whatever that might look like for you. I'm not seeking to make $1 zillion off this and monetize to the umpteenth power. I'm seeking to share information. Now, if YouTube says one day I have an opportunity to monetize it, I mean, by all means, I'm not going to leave money on the table, but this isn't about getting views. This isn't about getting watch time. This is about you listening and then doing something with this. Jim Quick once said, and I'm sure other people have said it. Hell, I probably said it before I heard Jim Quick say it. That knowledge isn't power. It's the action you take from the knowledge. That's the power. I want you to hear something in this, and I want you to say, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take action on that today. And that's one of the most powerful resources I can bring to you in all of these episodes. And again, there's 299 of them in the archives. Number 300 is coming out soon, where I give you actionable steps of things that you can do with this. And whether you listen with it on passively in the background, or whether you're actionably sitting there with a notepad and taking notes and then going off and being very mindful of the actions that you take, this show is built around uplifting and providing hope, but being real in the process, that life is messy, and that no matter how much we think everything is going to go right and how much we would like for it to go right and the expectations that we place upon things, we really have very little control over the external world, but we do have control over our own mind, which means that we have control over our own actions and thoughts and feelings. And when a negative thought comes in, we can ask ourselves, why am I thinking this right now? How is this benefiting me? Where did this get triggered from? When have I thought this before? And when have I proven to myself it's not true? Where have I proven to myself that I can be different than this negative thought that I just had in my mind? Because the automatic negative thoughts, it's part of our human existence. It's whether it's the ego feeding into our confirmation bias and always wanting to be right, whether it's our reticular activating system saying, see, I've seen this in you before and you're the same person you've always been. We know based off of our own experiences that the external world is going to doubt us more often than it's going to believe in us. But we can be the first persons to believe in ourselves. We can stop being the first person to reject ourselves. And while I've got a myriad of show notes and I've not even bothered to read them since I flipped on the camera, I know that there's a part of you inside of you. If you are finding this show, if you have decided to hunt down addiction recovery content that believes there's something better or different or more desirable for you out there, and I really want to be on team you. I want to be somebody that you turn to says, this dude, he's got my best interest at heart. He's not nefarious, and he really cares about my existence and his existence and wants to be that person who can be a part of the solution instead of being the wall that seemingly has been standing in front of you for so many years. Are we going to go above it, around it, through it, under it? I have no idea, but I promise you we're going to be moving forward. And if you feel like you're stuck, it's more than likely that you're standing still. And you have to make the decision first and foremost for yourself, because it's you who's going to keep pushing you forward. As much as your family and your loved ones and maybe your partner or coworkers or an acquaintance is there and wants to see you achieve this, they're not there with you all the time. And if you're requiring their positive affirmations and external validations to be the fuel for which you can continue on this journey, you're going to be disappointed when their own life takes over their own life. And now they're no longer to be there to sit there and laud and applaud and carry you on the shoulders and shower you with confetti whenever you do something very important to you, but just another step in the process as they watch you evolve to them. Let's go. Let's see if there's anything I've missed on here. Again, I've not even looked at these. I'm going to be doing this. We'll leave this as a pilot. It is what it is. And you're going to be drawn to more. You're going to be like, this dude's a lunatic and I'm never going to talk to him or listen to him again. You do you. I hope to be part of the solution, not an issue that you have to try to resolve at a later date. I will have show notes and occasionally I'll read off of them because I'm used to doing this with just a microphone and a headset, lots of times in the dark at 2 a.m. whenever I just feel called to shoot an episode. Now I'm going to be doing it with lights and cameras and actions and hoping that everything comes out. So there's going to be some times I'm going to be following a list. And 300, I come up with a really good one for 300. 7 key things that I've learned in 7 years of sobriety and 300 episodes. And certainly there will be opportunities for me to go off of that. I'm not going to sit here and try to make this super formal, super high tech and all that jazz. The idea is to get this information out Shout out to a YouTuber page called Think Media. I really was able to learn a lot last night about lights and microphones and stuff. And I have no affiliation with them, but I do think that it's important whenever I learn something to pass that information along and allow you guys to know where I got it from. A lot of this stuff is new to me. I used to do a YouTube show a long, long time ago, and I had somebody who was much more adept at lighting helping me back then. Shout out to TJ. And now I just found that, last night I needed some assistance. And one of the things that I think one of their taglines is just hit record. And I think that's where we can all take a little lesson in our lives is just hit record, just hit play, just take that first step. And whether it's a mindset shift and realizing that you might think that you're fixed and you can't increase and you can't get yourself more desirably into a position in your life, that's just not true. That there's growth in all of us, that change is happening every single second of our lives. Are we consciously aware and directing that change? Or are we allowing that change to unconsciously direct us? See, there's this thing where if you don't bring the unconscious into the conscious, then you'll just keep thinking that it's fate or it's destiny or it's just the way that it's always been. But it doesn't have to continue being the way that it's always been. It can be different. But passively sitting on your couch after you get off of work in your underwear watching The Simpsons eating bonbons isn't going to make it happen. There's going to be massive changes because you have so many habits that are anchored into your system that lead you towards your addiction. And whether it's yelling and screaming, or whether it's counting your money before you leave the house in the morning, or whether it's just making sure that you always drive by your booze store and you know it's open hours, hell, making sure you never lose the number to your plug. It can be a lot of things that become part of the habituation process of addiction into our lives. So we're going to have to crack each single one. And sometimes there's a really big habit that when it breaks, it shatters 1,000 habits in its wake. And other times it's tiny little habits, one at a time. We will discover how to do that with each other. We will also dive into emotional resiliency and realize that pushing down your emotions can lead to an explosion. There's so many episodes that I've done, and again, I could just rattle off a ton of them. Let me slide this over here. Don't do that. Let's move this. So around mindset, 213, growth and fixed mindset in language, beliefs, addiction, and recovery. Number 99, one of my mentors taught me mindset plus understanding plus strategy equals success. That's episode 99. Number 23, growth mindset versus fixed mindset and how they affect your journey. Those are great episodes around mindset. I'll drop some of these into the show notes. Although, again, I'm learning all this and I just want to get it going. So we'll see how well I do my show notes now. It's an evolution. This is day one. Let's see how much better I am at this. And when we, at episode 10 on YouTube, which would be 310 on the podcast. And that's another key thing is that whatever we do here is also going to still be showing up on there. And so it's not like there's going to be different shows. You can just simply go and listen to it in your car or here if you want to watch my pearly whites talk back to you. I'm working on the smiling on camera thing. Okay. Just right now, I'm just like a million things in my head. Emotional resiliency, episode 138, feeling my emotions and understanding my thoughts. Number 31, coping with shame, anxiety, and other negative emotions. Number 205, great episode, automatic negative thoughts. I think I did one in somewhere in the 260s, 270s, 280s, where I actually break down the 9 different kinds of automatic negative thoughts. And it's based on a book that was near me yesterday whenever I was shooting this, but is no longer near me. So again, this will be like the third time I've done this episode. Practical tools for recovery. It's all about action steps. And whether it's reprogramming your mind for sobriety in episode 157, whether it's your self-talk is creating everything in your life in episode 74, or number 50, stop tolerating your life by taking control of your mind. Sobriety isn't something that you just wish for. It's something that you're working toward. It's addiction recovery and long-term recovery. Like they say in Young People in Recovery, I'm a person in long-term recovery. You got to dive into your daily habits, self-care routines, recovery tools. This is a toolbox we're building up with beneficial tools. The tools we've had in our toolbox for all those years we were in addiction, they're not necessarily bad tools. They're not things that we should seek to throw away, because there was probably a lot of intestinal fortitude and resiliency and creativeness and determination and curiosity that led you into your addiction. Hell, Anybody who is boozed or drugged long enough knows what it's like to really want to re-up at 3 in the morning. And boy, did we have some creativity in how to make that happen. What if we just slide that creativity that we used to use as fuel and energy towards our addiction, but instead now move it towards our sobriety and recovery? We have that intuitiveness. We have that curious nature. We have that kind of determination and that willpower that eventually turns into discipline, and then it begins to habituate. We have all of these tools. We've just been using them to build the wrong kind of house. Now we're just going to move all of these tools over to a more beneficial house and start figuring out ways that we can just laterally shift them to bring a more positive outcome in our lives. Well, I want you to really understand that there is no failure. There's only feedback. And I have a ton of episodes, and I don't have one listed above, but where I talk about the difference between lapse and relapse. That a lapse is dipping your toe back into that world, and relapse is really going all in back to the way you used to be. And I know this can be debatable, and feel free to, throw your vitriol in the comments if you desire, but it's really a mindset. Did you use for a few days and then realize this isn't for me anymore? Or did you dive right back in and just go on a 2-week bender and then just come out of it and say, yep, still want to do this for the rest of my life? And now you're back into it. There's a difference. And I don't want you to feel like every single time that you have dipped your toe back in and tried it and maybe even left the community for months on end, that it was a failure. It was a feedback opportunity. It gives you a chance to journal or meditate or think about or just pause and self-reflect and evaluate what is it that you did then, where are some opportunities to improve, and what could you do the next time, and let's take some action on that. Because if you see everything as a failure, then you miss the lesson. And so we really want to navigate those setbacks. Life is messy. We're going to stumble. We're humans. We're fallible. It's like written into our DNA. It's coded into our genetics to be fallible. It's part of the process. And we're looking for progress, not perfection. Bouncing back, getting up off the mat. As Mike Tyson, or was it Muhammad Ali, once said, everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. And planning is priceless, but plans are basically worthless. And I think that was FDR or Truman. It was right around World War II. Pretty sure it was FDR. Could be wrong, but it doesn't really matter. The point is that we can make plans and understand that life's going to throw us some curveballs. And when we start asking ourselves, is it only externally these curveballs are being thrown, or is it also inside my own mind? Self-sabotage is no longer a viable excuse for undesirable behavior. Did you know that if you take your knuckle and you push it up against your lip like that when you feel a sneeze coming, that if you catch it early enough, you can stop it? That's what just occurred. Episode 130, self-sabotage is no longer a viable excuse for undesirable behaviors. Episode 120, the winning formula, stop self-sabotaging yourself. On the show, I say quite frequently that it's self-sabotage when it's unconscious, but once you've pulled it into the conscious mind, it's just a crappy choice. And you're going to stop making those crappy choices. And we can sit here and blame our trauma, our mommy, our daddy, or somebody who assaulted us at a young age or at any stage in our lives when somebody did something nefarious towards us. We can keep blaming those people, but that takes us out of the seat of empowerment. You're not the victim. You are your own creator. And we can see the world as a bunch of villains, or we can see the world as a bunch of challenges that just give us an opportunity to prove even more to ourselves. And I'm not your hero, but I am certainly a coach. I can certainly be a mentor. I run an entire business with recovery coaching, life coaching, business coaching. I workshop facilitate at businesses, at addiction recovery centers. I keynote speak. I've written a book based on that podcast. I don't know if my finger's pointing at it because I don't have myself on the screen anymore. I've done a lot to create a universe that seeks to help people understand how to shift their mindset, how to communicate more beneficially and effectively with those that they love, including themselves, conflict resolution, all of this stuff. The amount of topics I have it really just seems almost infinite sometimes, because in 300 episodes of this podcast, I still don't feel like I've run out of content to share. So I cannot stress enough that if you keep making poor decisions that you know are poor decisions, then you're the first one rejecting yourself and blaming somebody else for something that happened when you were 7 years old, when you're 27 or 37 or 47 now, isn't benefiting you. Yeah, you can keep pointing at them saying, this is your fault. This is your fault. Just like any team that didn't draft Patrick Mahomes, those first 11 teams could say, but the reason we suck is because we didn't draft that guy. Maybe so, maybe not. Did you have the right coaching? Did you have the right playbook? Did you have the right mentality that could embrace a player of his extraordinary talents where he wants to be able to just improv on the field and be okay with that? Or did you try to, you know, shove a square peg into a round hole and say, no, this is what we're going to do? Just because somebody else has had success with something doesn't mean you necessarily would have had that same kind of success. But certainly adopting things that you notice are working for other people, modeling that behavior and giving it a go for yourself is a great start. That's why we want to build our recovery tribe. The opposite of addiction is connection, but you have to seek to find that vulnerability within inside of yourself and then share it with other people. Brene Brown is a really great topic coordinator on this. I'm pretty sure she's got a TED Talk that talks about vulnerability. If you're not familiar with Brene Brown or Carol Dweck, I highly recommend that you go find both of their contents because I'm a huge proponent of both of them and the way that they really help in a very layman's terms understand what's going on inside here and what's going on inside here. And Brene Brown is very much a strong proponent for stepping into our vulnerability and that being how we can release our suffering, that being how we can release our trauma. And I bring those teachings into this show. I have this ability within my brain to take in a tremendous amount of data, find out how it's all interconnected, how the web just seems to go vastly beyond even what we can initially comprehend, and realize that it's all connected, and then being able to articulate that and bring that to you in a way that not only can you embrace it and hear it and while you're listening to it, but you can take action from it. And to me, that's the most important step in anything. It's like the book The Secret, where it talks about manifesting money. Yeah, you can manifest and you can sit there and have positive, optimistic thoughts about money all you want. But if you're just sitting on the couch watching The Simpsons in your underwear eating bonbons, the likelihood that money's just going to show up on your door is very unlikely. I mean, hell, even lottery tickets have to go get purchased. So understand that everything is going to really fully begin when you start taking action, that the planning process and the learning process is one part of it, but the taking action upon it and then realizing that if it doesn't meet your expectations, then that's going to lead you to frustration, but it can also shift into determination to try it again and again and again and again, because repetition is where it's at. So building your recovery tribe, whether it's episode 246, support, the opposite of addiction is connection, 43, toxic people and how our judgments of others affect our interactions, and some of the many others that I've had. Again, my brain is trying right now just to stay focused. This is so different because in the past I just sit here and la 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 la. I got my feet up on the desk, no shirt on, fans all going, techno lights blaring like I'm in a club. And it's 2 a.m. or I'm on my treadmill, and now all of a sudden I'm trying to be like all super professional. It is what it is. Balancing real talk with humor. I will make you laugh. That's my goal, but I'll also make you think and potentially even get you a little teary eyed. I'm not Barbara Walters over here. I'm not trying to elicit those kind of emotions, but I do get real. And I don't care who hears about it. In fact, I wouldn't put it on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and iTunes and all that other stuff if I was afraid of somebody hearing my truth and then not wanting to work with me or be involved in something that I'm doing on the professional side. And as far as friends and acquaintances and family members, I will gladly tell them anything that they want to ask about. I want you to embrace all of yourself, even whenever you feel that you're imperfect, because we're progression machines, not perfection machines. And you may not want to stand on the mountaintop and scream out your story, but you might one day. And you don't need to think about how you might embrace sobriety and recovery in 3 years when you're at 3 months, 9 months, 12 months, right? You can begin to build the foundation. I, in a million years, did not think that in my first 3 or 4 months, when I was introduced to neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavioral therapy and other forms of psychological theories, and was introduced to Carol Dweck and Brene Brown, that all of a sudden, 2 years later, I'd be launching a podcast. And, 5 years after that, launching it on the YouTube side with, 1 million downloads and 300 episodes in my pocket. I didn't think that any of this stuff was going to happen. Writing a book, going and speaking at universities, going to businesses and teaching the workshops that I facilitate. None of that was in my brain at month 3. It was just like, can I please just eat a ham sandwich without throwing it up? Can I please just drink a glass of water without feeling nauseous? I swear, the love of goodness gracious, can I not wake up at 2 in the morning in a pool of sweat? Is that possible? Can I just get to that stage? Everything else that's come has all been because something popped into my mind and I sought out to create it. The life is about creating for yourself. And some of these things have been easier than others. But again, easy and difficult is subjective to perspective. I judge no one when they say things are challenging or difficult, because for them, it could be a whole different neural pathway being built. And it might be something that I built 5 years ago that now seems second nature to me. If I can go back and think about where I was 5 years ago, put myself in your shoes, meet you where you're at, then there's an opportunity for me to share my knowledge and have you model it in your own unique way. That's something that I strive to do a lot. And I know that at times I don't necessarily hit that mark, is meeting you where you're at, because I can get a little bit aggressive. I can really want to just yell at some people because I just see them keep making the same crappy decision time and time and time again, expecting a different result. That's insanity. No, Einstein never actually said that, but we like to just whack the mic and I jumped from it. Be startled by the microphone. We certainly like to claim that that was Einstein, and sure, he's a genius. So why not just, anything we don't know where to locate a quote, just throw it and say it was Einstein. Opposite of addiction is connection. That sounds like something Einstein would have said. Hope and inspiration and growth. 214, taking action creates self-confidence. 106, small steps become huge goals. Accomplished. In future episodes, I'm absolutely going to be pouring into the emotional intelligence of self-awareness, self-management, relationship awareness, and really social awareness, relationship management. Thank you very much. I knew it was in there somewhere. Early sobriety, changing everything, control yourself, healing takes time. That's episode 222. We're going to really, self-talk. It's what are you saying to yourself on a regular occasion? When somebody says you did something wrong, are you beating yourself up, or you're going, yay, I just learned something new? There's so many different ways to internalize the external world. And it really comes down to how our mind feeds us information, what internal representation, which is just a fancy word for what kind of picture do we create in our mind of what just occurred in the external world. And then how do we start talking to ourselves about this thing that we just created in our mind? How is that shifting our physiology? How is that modifying our emotions? How is that ultimately creating our outcomes? Number 4, how to quit using and forge through the first day, week, and month. That was episode 4. I think the episode 2, 3, somewhere around there is the mini pathways of sobriety and recovery. We're going to be introducing a lot of these topics, especially the ones that I did, back in the early 100s of all of this stuff, because there's so many of these things that not only have I learned more things about, but the evolution of our society alone will dictate that we will experience this information differently now than we would have then. Number 148, sobriety and what to experience next. There's just amazing, amazing information that I love to share with you. I want to be a part of your team. I want to inject hope and determination and positivity and inspiration and all of those things into you. But inspiration is external. I can inspire you, but motivation is internal. You have to be the one who motivates yourself up off the couch, turns off the TV, stops doom scrolling, and takes an active participation in your life, in your recovery. This isn't just going to happen on its own. You can send out all the positive vibes you want in the world, but at the end of the day, you have to be the one who's willing to put in the effort and put in the work. I think I've made this long enough. Hopefully there's a part of you that's like, yeah, I'll listen to this guy again. Cause I care enough about views that I don't want to be the only one watching this, or one of my tribal members in Florida being like, I get one view and it's you. So certainly I do want this to become popular, because it matters to me that this information gets out there and is shareable, and people can hear it and make changes in their lives because of it. So yes, do I want the show to be successful? Absolutely. Am I going to sit here and remind you to subscribe and to hit the notifications or leave a comment and all that stuff? You do you, man. Ladies, peoples, humans, you do you. If you want to do that stuff, great. If you don't want to do that stuff, you do you. Just know that I'm here when you need me. I certainly love to share all of this. If you would like to know more information, jessiemogul.com is a great place to start. You can go to Ask Me, jessemogul.com/ask me. You can click on the coaching button or the NLP button, and you can learn more about these things that I teach or the coaching that I do. I'm teaching a neurolinguistic programming class at the end of this month, in fact, for 10 weeks, really geared towards those people who want to make massive changes in their lives, but seemingly keep going back to the old behavior. They're like, I've tried so many things, but nothing ever seems to stick. I have seen hundreds of people learn neurolinguistic programming and have things stick. It's one of the reasons I teach it and one of the reasons I talk about it so much. Other than that, once a week, we'll be looking to shoot these things. It might be here in front of this whole setup. It might be on my walk-in treadmill at 1 a.m. if I can figure out a way to set up a light that would actually at least make it not look pixelated. I got a coaching chair over there. I might do it over there. I got like 3 or 4 setups in this office. I have no idea what this will evolve to, but I'm certainly looking forward to the opportunity to share on a different medium. YouTube being what it is, it definitely seems like it's a long time coming that I finally introduced myself to the YouTube world, utilizing the From Sobriety to Recovery podcast. And then I've got a lot of other things that I'd like to teach that won't necessarily have anything to do with sobriety and recovery, but will certainly have a lot to do with life coaching and adulting 101. And that's really what this podcast has been since I launched it. It has been a life coaching and adulting class, a master class, at least at this point, 300 episodes in, that is disguised as a sobriety and recovery because I'm in sobriety and recovery. And so maybe disguised isn't the right word, but certainly it is the portal at which I introduce myself, but understanding that all of this content can be utilized, whether it's a behavioral addiction like alcohol and drugs or a process addiction like eating and drinking or pornography. I don't know how YouTube feels about things like the PORN. I don't know. I've seen other people have to bleep that out. I've seen them have to bleep out words like rape and incest too. And so I don't know how this works. Maybe it's a monetization thing. So I might try to utilize words that aren't those words in order not to get, I don't know, kicked off of YouTube. There's a lot of rules that I don't have to think about and worry about when I'm just loading this up into Podbean and blowing it out there to Spotify and Apple and Stitcher and Google and all those other Pandora. And now all of a sudden there's a whole new set of rules I've got to think about. And so we're going to learn that together. But certainly, there's those behavioral addictions like sex and pornography and gambling and eating and shopping and hell, being on these freaking phones all the day long. We literally created an addiction machine and then sold it to everybody for $1,000. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot we can discuss. I think I've droned on long enough. I hope you've made it to this point. By all means, go listen to the archives over there. Anywhere you listen to streaming music, that's where you can find me. And there's going to be more of these coming. We'll see what it evolves to. I just appreciate your time. I know that that's valuable enough. There's a bazillion things vying for your attention, and I'm really glad I get to be one of them, at least for this episode. We'll see what happens. So don't subscribe, don't hit notifications, don't leave comments. Is that reverse psychology? It's just you do what you want to do. If you want to leave a comment, tell me I'm a huckster, jokester, Huckleberry Finn. You can be my Huckleberry. There's a lot of things that you can do. You do you. I just realized that what you do affects other people. What you do matters to other people, and you can be a positive vibration in life, or you can be that one that seems to suck the energy out of a room. Just choose wisely, because the more you put those kind of ingredients into your soup of life, the more indistinguishable those ingredients will be from the version of you that people experience. You can choose the optimistic, positive, growth mindset route, or you can choose the negative, pessimistic, fixed mindset route. Either way, just know that you are the creator of your life, and blaming somebody else for something that they did 5 minutes ago or 50 years ago doesn't give you any more power. In fact, it willingly gives them the power. And I think we're done giving other things power now, right? Alcohol, drugs, any kind of process addiction. Again, those are all the things where you have to do an action in order to achieve the high versus a behavioral where you have to take something to get the high. I think we're done giving our power up to things that are not us. Seize the day. Be that version of you that maybe nobody's ever told you you are, or even have the opportunity to be, or even have the potential to be. But as somebody who woke up on January 12th of 2017, looking in a mirror at a monster, at a ghost, and hearing the whispers of Jesse, you had so much great potential, and yet you squandered it and wasted it all, and realizing that that wasn't going to be my story anymore. That I was going to seek to do something that I'd never really subscribed to, that I'd never immersed myself in. And when I got sober and put all my energy towards healing my body and my mind and my soul, amazing things happened. And it took a lot of time. And there's still so many more steps ahead, but it's not going to happen any faster if I don't start today. Best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. Second best time is today. Whatever you think that you've missed out on because of alcohol and drugs and addiction and a negative fixed mindset, yes, opportunities were lost in the past, but it doesn't mean that they can't be seized in the today. As always, my friends, okay, so this is how I always end the episodes. And so I have this little thing where it's sort of like the closing of the show. JesseMogul.com/ask me if you have any questions, want to become more involved in this world. If I have a email address just for listeners and viewers of this show, from sobriety to recovery at Gmail. It's not my business address, but it's definitely one that will go directly to that account. That's just for people who pay attention to this content. Inclusivity over exclusivity, the power of positive energy, release and flow. Every day is the best day of our lives when we wake up sober. I put it right back there for a reason, to always remind me and anybody else who sees this view that that's the truth, because Frank Sinatra was wrong. That the best, he once said that I feel bad for people who don't drink because the best they'll ever feel is when they first wake up. And that is such a blatant lie. It is an oversimplification of the waking up process. My knees and shoulders do not feel great when I wake up. I promise you, I feel much better after a little bit of this. And so I just wanted to stress upon you that, waking up with a sober mind and a clear heart, not wondering where my bank account is, my car is, or who I got to call up to apologize for pissing off last night. That is definitely a better way of waking up. Being sober and clear minded and knowing that I went to bed in one condition and I'm relatively waking up in the same. So every day is the best day of our lives when we wake up sober. Shout out to Sunshine. Shout out to Robert. While we're at it, shout out Mom and Abigail. Glow on, my friends. The pilot, it's done. Let's see where this goes from here. Blessed to be a part of your life. May you have a beautiful day. Bye-bye. That was a lot. That was a lot. I have no idea if I covered all the things I did in the other two episodes. Can I just stare off into space and do these things? What if I just pace back and forth on camera? Would you be okay with that? I think we're going to find out one day.